Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar presented by NewGen Consulting Australasia. My name is Emil Emmanuel, and I'm thrilled to be your host for this exciting and informative session. We appreciate you taking time to join us today as we explore the capabilities of Microsoft Power Platform and Azure AI. Our expert speaker, Cheyenne Yatagama, is here to guide you through a series of topics designed to help you harness the full potential of these innovative tools. Why this topic probably is a question in your mind. Right now, many organizations and businesses are struggling with managing and integrating their data efficiently. You might be dealing with cumbersome ETL processes, inconsistent data preparation, and challenges of creating meaningful, actionable insights from your data. This often results in waste of time, resources, and missed opportunities for making informed business decisions. That's where Microsoft Power Platform and Azure AI comes in. With Power Platform, you can streamline your ETL processes using data flow, simplify your data preparation with Power Query, and also create dynamic interactive reports with Power BI. Azure AI adds an extra layer of intelligence, enabling you to leverage the advanced analytics and predictive capabilities. By implementing these tools, you will see transformation and transformative results in how you manage and utilize your data. You will achieve efficient data integration, seamless data preparation, and robust data model that drives your business forward. Ultimately, this leads to smarter business decisions, enhancing productivity and significant competitive advantage for your business. This means you can now stop feeling overwhelmed and frustrated by manual data processes and start feeling confident and empowered with data driven insights for your business at your fingertips. No more second guessing decisions, struggling with inefficient workflow. We hear you, we heard you well. That's what we want to do today to move forward feeling empowered, feeling that you have the power, streamlined system that supports your business goals. What aspects of these solutions would you think bring the most value to your business? And our expert speakers and the informative session will give you answers to it. Every industry is undergoing fundamental transformation of being digital companies. To disrupt and innovate, organizations must on strategy that connects their customers, employees, products, and operations as effectively as possible, streamlining their businesses so the customers have the ideal experience. Employees are empowered to do their best. Operations can ensure efficiency and effectiveness across their businesses. And the best product and services are being offered to your customers. Microsoft Digital Loop Feedback Loop framework highlights how digital transformation is enabled. At the center of the transformative transformation is data, and that's the topic today, which flow from every product and services. By mining this data for intelligence, we can predict customer needs, anticipate failures, and continue to improve business processes, ultimately transforming your business to the next level. The Microsoft Power Platform is a collective of SaaS services that enables users to analyze, make sense of your data through interactive real-time dashboards with Power BI, act, build apps quickly using Power Apps, and take data-driven action. Automate include workflow automation in your apps with no-code approach using Power Automate and Power Virtual Agent. This platform allows everyone from CEO to frontline worker to drive business decisions with data fostering innovation. Power BI is built for citizen developers and analysts. It offers real-time dashboards and interactive reports, natural language querying, AI insights, and seamless integration with Excel, PowerPoint, SharePoint, and Teams. Power BI has been the leader in Gartner's Magic Quadrant for Analytics and Business Intelligence platform for the 16th consecutive year in 2023. So we are with the leaders and the best in the industry. Before we dive in, a few housekeeping items that I need to cover before I introduce the topic and the speaker for this morning. If you have any queries, questions during the presentation, please type them in the Q&A box. We'll address as many as possible during the Q&A session at the end. This webinar is also being recorded. A link to this recording will be sent out to you after this session, so you can review the material and you can focus on the conversation and the presentation at this point. Our speaker today, Shayan Yatagama, is a passionate professional with extensive experience in data management, business intelligence, and AI technology. He's here to share insights and answer your questions to ensure how best we get the best out of this session and the time that we are investing. Now, without further ado, let's get started with our topic. Shayan, over to you, man.
Thank you very much, Emil, for that lovely introduction. Good morning, everybody. So let's get right to it. Let me share my screen. So this morning we're going to play the fictional role of being the CMO, or the Chief Marketing Officer of Van Arsdale. Van Arsdale is a company, a manufacturing company, and they manufacture expensive electronics products. Their main office is in the US, but they also export their electronics products to the other countries. So as a chief marketing officer, we have been able to hire a market intelligence company to provide some competitor data to us, which we would like to analyze along with our data to figure out what our market share is in the relevant markets, where are we performing, what has happened over the past couple of years in terms of sales and revenue, and how our marketing efforts might have helped the business. That's the whole goal of today's dashboard that we'll be building and the reports that we'll be building today. Right. So let's start off diving deep into a report that we've developed so far. So this report displays a look at the past 10 years in terms of data that we have. And this currently shows that Van Arsdale, we have out of the 7 geographic regions that we are looking for, we seem to be having approximately 50% of the business, 47% to be exact. So essentially half of the business in terms of the retail products that we are after seems to be ours. So we seem to be a market leader in this area. If we dive deep into a couple of the countries, so I'll just click on USA, our market, our main market. As you can see here on this chart, this top line represents our company, Van Arsdale, compared to our competitors, the 4-5 other competitors that we are after, and we seem to be miles ahead in these recent years, right? If we look at another country, for example, Germany, where we have one of our officers, same story in Germany, and we seem to be doing quite well. Let's look at Canada. Canada, the growth seems to be similar to other countries, and I noticed this small spike towards the end of the latest year, 2021, in terms of the data that we have. There's a small spike here, seems interesting. If I look into Australia as well, here in Australia, there seems to be steady growth throughout the years. From the start of the data that we have in 2014 towards 2021, we seem to be having steady growth in the Australian market. But again, I see this spike, interesting spike compared to the growth of the previous years. So this is something that I would want to explore to see whether there is something deeper in this story. So what I will do is I'll move on to the next page just to identify a little bit what has happened in the Australian market in this time period. So this chart shows us what the revenue has been and what the growth has been over the past couple of years for the entire global operations. Power BI gives us this capability of um, we call it report cross filtering, essentially where I can click a visual and that would filter down the other visuals as well. For example, if I currently we see sales for the entire worldwide sales efforts, but if I click on USA, for example, the visuals around this also get filtered down to display the USA data, right? The country that we were after is, let's just move on to Japan and Germany just to see how our visuals are filtering. Now look at Australia, right? So the same insight that we saw from the previous graph, which is that there seems to be a growth spike or an interesting growth spike in the year 2021 is quite visible in this chart, right? So from 2020 to 21, there has been some change that has happened in the business, which caused this spike. What I would like to do is I would like to expand and see how the product wise or the category wise breakdown of this um, uh, of these sales for the relevant years were. So what I'll do is I'll filter down to 2020 data and I'll just look at what categories or segments have given me this sale. So in 2020 we seem to be getting 30% each roughly on moderation, convenience, and extreme segments of the business. These are, as I mentioned, we are in the electronics manufacturing segment. So these are a couple of electronics manufacturing market. These are a couple of the segments that we have under our products. So if I look at 2019, look at Australia for 2019. Convenience seems to be performing at around 37% of the mark of our share, sales share. Moderation and extreme also close to 30%. If I go to 2020, seems to be in the same, pretty much same ratios. And I move to 2021, I notice a change in these percentages. If I click back to 2020, I'll click again from 2019. So we have convenience, moderation, and extreme around this percentages. 2020 seems to be quite similar with moderation and convenience on top, extreme at number 3. But in 2021, we see that extreme segment has jumped up drastically from 30% to 40% of the sales share in Australian business. And this seems to be driving this massive growth in the sale. So that's something interesting to us, which means that either some of the marketing activities that we might have done for extreme seems to be paying off, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe there was a new product that we launched that really caught the traction of the market. Now that's something interesting that I could dive deep and figure out what went right there and try to replicate it across the other segments, right? This is how a dashboard could help us, like as you in terms of visualizing and diving deep into the data to figure out what we might have done right, what we might have done wrong. And we would try to now replicate this type of dashboard on our end as a citizen developer. So if the marketing team had the data in their own hands, how would I go about building a dashboard or building a Power BI report like this on Power BI desktop? So with that, let's dive into the data that we have.
So what Shyam presented here was the end product and show the power of visual analytics that could help you with decision support. And now the step that he's going to go in is how a citizen developer could really empower or to be empowered using these tools to create a product like this.
So let me first start off with showing what the data looks like. Right. So as I mentioned, our main business is in the US market. So let's assume that our ERP was able to provide the US sales data in this format. Right. Just quickly show the data and how that is. Yeah, so it's very simple, right? A couple of columns that we have over here around products, when the sale was made, the zip code, and the revenue that we received from each of these products. So quite simple in terms of ERP data that we might receive. Save that, and I'll show some of the matrix that we are going to visualize. So the product, for example, let's say we don't have the product information in a easy manner. So this, for example, if you look at this column, we have the product information kind of merged together in this column B over here, right? Manufacturer, let's assume the manufacturer data that we have on Excel is in this format. It's not in a standard tabular format that's easy for us to load into Power BI, and we'll see how this is done. And if you look at geographies, um, uh, let's just assume it's in the standard tabular format, right? When it comes to the other international sales, we have requested for these sales from those companies, from our subsidiaries, for example, and we have the data received. Each country would provide this data separately, right? And we have received, for example, 6 files with the sales data from those relevant companies. Now, we need to figure out how we're going to put all of these together. We have data from our ERP system. We have data from other ERP systems. We have data from, let's say, the manufacturers of the products, which is completely different on Excel. How are we going to put all of these together inside Power BI? So in Power BI, once you open Power BI, this is the interface that you are going to be presented with, right? We call this our Power BI canvas, where we are able to kind of visualize the report and build our report. We have the table view, which we'll go into in a little bit, and we have the model view, which are the 3 main components of Power BI. To start off with, we'll go into transform data to figure out how we can pull this data inside the Excel and the CSV data that I presented, how we can pull this into Power BI. I've already now pulled products and geographies because they were quite straightforward. I'll show you how we can pull in sales, the manufacturers, and also international sales, our local sales and also international sales. So we'll start off with pulling in the US sales data. Power BI has a vast number of sources that we can connect to in terms of Excel and CSVs, which is quite standard. We can connect to SQL Server. We can connect to Oracle, Postgres, SAP HANA, Amazon's Redshift, and there's over 100 different data sources that we can connect to on Power BI. Pretty much all the main ERPs and data warehouses are connectors are available to all of those in terms of connecting into Power BI, including things like SharePoint lists, right? In our case, let's start with an Excel workbook, which we'll connect to and pick out our international sales. So I believe it's in a CSV. Let's start off with sales. And all I had to do was select the CSV, and Power BI loads the data. So it looks at the first 200 rows and says that, okay, this is what we seem to have. Are you okay with pulling the data? We say yes and pull it out, right? So just like that, we are able to load our data onto the Power Query or Power BI. One of the things that I notice here is the zip code. If you notice, like Power BI is quite smart. It tries to do a couple of steps for us, and sometimes it goes a bit too far. So in this case, when we connected the data, what happened was on this corner over here, you are able to see the steps. It looked into the Power BI, into the CSV file and loaded the data. If you notice this first step, it's reading the headers. It noticed that that was a header that was not part of the data, and it automatically promoted that as the header. And also, it went one step further and converted, if you notice these all of these columns say ABC, which means it's a text data, and it converted into numbers. Now, one of the issues that happened here is zip codes are not really numbers that we can just ignore leading zeros with, right? So one of the problems that happened here is these 5-digit zip codes in the US went from 5 digits into 4 digits because of the data conversion that happened. So that's what I mentioned. Like it's good. Some of the automation that we have is good, but in certain cases that goes a bit too far. So we need to tell Power BI and teach it that, hey, zip code is not a number. We need to leave it as a text. So I'll very simply click on this button over here and convert that into a text. I'll say, yes, I don't want your step, just replace it. Just like that, we are off to the races in terms of the zip code and international sales, right? So that's done over there. Next, let me try to connect the other sales, as in the sales from the other countries as well. Now, if you remember the data sources that we had before, we had 7 different CSV files for each of the countries. Well, 6 different CSV files for each of the countries. Now, in a traditional sense, I'll need to go and click on text CSV, connect to the first country, then the second country, third country, and so on and so forth. But Power BI has made it a little easy for us. If the data, if the CSVs are in the same format inside a folder, we can directly connect into a folder, and Power BI would read that folder or all the files in that folder as just one file. So that's what we're going to do, and we're going to leverage the Power BI, the power of Power BI over there. Click on folder and directly connect into the folder so that I don't need to go and click this text to CSV button multiple times, right? So let me quickly pick that over here. I need to essentially go on and browse all the way until I reach my international sales folder. When I say OK, Power BI is going to do that same thing and say, hey, there are 6 files in that folder, right? Do you want all of those? So I'm going to say, yes, I want all of those. So please combine it and transform it for me. It's reading the first file and saying, okay, these are the columns that we have. Shall I bring all of those? Say yes. Right. And it went through a couple of steps to get these files. Now, these steps are really not important for us right at this stage. It's just a couple of steps that Power BI goes through. And it's been able to pull these files, all the information for us. So if I just click on this drop down, click on load more. So what we have over here is these all 6 files have been pulled into Power BI at the moment. Now we already have a column for country. So this source column is not really required for us because it's like a duplicate of the country. So let me just click that and say, hey, I don't need this column, remove it. Right. If you notice, the zip problem had happened here again. Let's this step. Let me tell Power BI that, hey, please don't convert this for me. Yeah, that should do. And we are able to get all of get the data or all the 6 countries data combined over here. Now, another problem that I see is I've got my US sales over here and the other countries over here. I would prefer combining these together so that we have one table with all of the sales in it for the entire globe. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to append or I'm going to combine these data inside Power Query. So I see that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 columns over here. and 5 columns, only 5 columns in the sales table. I'll add another column to denote that this is from USA, whereas the others are from a different country. So I'll simply add a column on this table. So it's very intuitive. We have a menu item over here for adding a column. Let me just say add a custom column. The name of that column is country, and the country is just going to be USA. Click OK. It's done, and I'll change this data type into text as well. And just like that, we have another column. And now I'll show you how we can combine these two. All I have to do is go into Home, Append. Append is to combine two tables together, and say, please combine international sales and sales. And just like that, we have all the sales in one country, in one table. Now, this doesn't seem like all of the data is available because I just see USA over here. Just click on this filter just to confirm that we have all of the data in one table, right? There we go. Just 2 clicks and we are able to combine two tables together, and we have information from 7 different files. The US sales on one main file from our ERP, for example, and 6 different from the other countries, all of those together inside one table in Power BI. Right. Next, there was one more thing that was missing, which is manufacturers. If you notice manufacturers, I'll open this BI dimensions file. This shows us the sheets that we have and the tables that we have on Excel. I'll select the manufacturer. Right, there you go. If you notice manufacturers, we have the manufacturer information in a horizontal fashion. It's not in the standard table format that we are used to seeing, right? So we'll figure out how we can convert this on Power BI as well. Yeah. So I'm just going to take a look at this. So what I see here is I have manufacturer ID, manufacturer, and the logo for the manufacturer on the first 3 columns. And each of the manufacturers are on the first 3 rows rather, and each of the manufacturers are across columns. So what I'm going to do here is say the bottom 3 rows seem to be junk data. I don't need them. So let me just tell Power BI, hey, remove bottom rows, remove 3 rows from the bottom. I don't need those anymore. So this is the data that I want, but it's not in the shape that I want. How am I going to convert that? So I'm going to tell Power BI, hey, I want to transform this. I want to transpose this. Transpose is essentially convert the data on this side, on the horizontal side, into the vertical angle. So if I just click on transpose, just like that, it's able to convert that entire data from the horizontal end, turn it into a table format that we are familiar with. And as I see that manufacturer ID is over here, so let me tell Power BI to use the first row as the header, and we are done. So right now what we've done is I already imported products before because it was straightforward. We have the products table, we have the geographies table, we have sales, which is a combination of 7 different CSV files that we had. We have international sales, which we don't need anymore because we already have the sales table. So I'm just going to tell Power BI, I don't need this on my, I've already have the sales table, so I don't need you to load the international table as well. And manufacturers, which I'm going to rename with a capital M just for the sake of consistency. And that is how we can connect Power BI to our source data files using Power Query. So as you noticed, most of the functions, well, all the functions that I did pretty much was available on these menu items over here, on the menu ribbon over here. We are able to do many operations. 90% of the operations that we need in terms of mixing and mashing our data set is available on these menu items, and it's very intuitive. It's just a click of a couple of buttons which you're able to do to convert the data into the format that we want. And with that, let me load the data onto my data set. Wait for a couple of minutes until it loads.
I'm sure, Shan, the steps that you showed is quite empowering for a citizen developer or citizen analyst who is keen to develop, and the steps didn't look any technical at all, and that's very impressive how the product has evolved during the period of time.
Absolutely, absolutely. Right. So we'll come onto this side in a couple of minutes. What we just did was connect to our data, loaded all of the data. And if you notice on this canvas, I'm back on the report canvas where we can build our visuals. We are able to see those 4 tables that we just loaded. So we have sales over here, we have products, manufacturers, and geographies. On this end as well, building a report is very simple. It's just a matter of drag and drop. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to drag, for example, just to take a look at what we have. Let me start off with pulling our manufacturer. That shows us all the manufacturers that we have. And let me look at revenue. So I'm just gonna click on revenue and just drag it over here. And just like that, we are able to visualize what the sum of revenue or the revenue is like for each manufacturer. I'm able to click on this and just sort it out, sort it from ascending order or descending order as I wish. I'll just drag out, let's look at country and revenue, right? And here I see something interesting. Right? All the circles or the size of revenue for each country seems to be the same. Now this does not look right. Let me convert this into a table visual to see whether we have got everything in order. I'm just going to click on this and convert it. These are the visuals that I have to play with. Let me convert this into a table. Right, there we go. So my suspicion was correct. Um, the information did not seem to get filtered by the country, right? So now we need to figure out how we're going to do that. And that's where the second step of our journey, which is data modeling, comes into play. Once we have the data loaded, we have our model view over here so that we can tell or teach Power BI how our data connects to each other, right? So what we see is Power BI has already tried to do something. So it has already identified that the manufacturer and products are linked using the manufacturer ID. The product and sales is linked using product ID, but it has been unable to link the geography and sales. That is the reason that this did not appear in the way that we want. So let's see how we can do that. Let me just drag geography over here and sales over here. Right. So dragging and dropping, or rather connecting two tables is just a matter of dragging and drop. So let me pull zip to zip over here. and let's see what we can do. There we go. So there is an issue here, which is why Power BI was not able to do it in the first place. And Power BI is telling us what this problem is as well. So I tried to connect the two zip codes, and it's saying there is a bit of a problem. There is a many-to-many relationship. Essentially, it means that Power BI is not able to understand how am I going to connect these two. And the reason for that is inside each country, you might have the same zip code for two cities. The zip code is unique only within a country, not across the entire globe. So Power BI is unable to understand how am I going to put these two together. So we need to tell Power BI or make it a little easy for him by adding a column to show him that these two are the same. That can easily be done using a language called DAX, which is very similar to Excel formulas. If you can type Excel formulas and if you're quite familiar with Excel formulas, DAX is going to be just a breeze for you. So let me show you how we can create a new column on DAX. I've already created this column for the geography called country zip, right? So if you notice this new column, it's called country zip, and it's just a matter of writing out this formula, and I'll show you how we can do this on the sales table as well. So I click on my sales table, and I need to create a new column. So we have a button over here for new column. So let me create that new column, and I'm going to call it this column. I'm just going to call it again. I'm going to call it country zip, and I'm going to say this country zip column is equal to the country column. So I'm just I'll type that once again. I hope you can see the formula bar. I hope it's visible. So I'm just going to start with a square bracket. Just when I type the square bracket, the Power BI DAX language is going to give me the options that I have. So I'm going to select country. I'm going to say and, which is what we use to combine two things on Excel as well, and zip. So we are able to create a new column for the country and the zip, like a combined column for the country and the zip code. Now, instead of using the original zip code, let me try using the country zip column to combine the two. And in this case, we don't see that error anymore because we are able to connect these two tables using this new unique column called country zip. We say save. Right. Now, if you remember the original problem, the summation for each country was the same. Let's see whether this has solved this problem. Right, there we go. So over here, now what has happened is we are able to view the revenue, which is filtered down by country. And that is how we can use the model view and DAX to build some of the columns that we want, that we require in terms of our analysis. Without that column or without that modeling step on DAX, we wouldn't have been able to figure out, or Power BI wouldn't have been able to figure out how to combine those two tables. And with that, we can simply play around with a couple of more visuals to see what we have. Let me look at I'll look at product over here again. So let me look at segment, let's say segment and revenue. And something I know is that the product, there's a hierarchy for product, like products fall under categories and segments, right? But Power BI doesn't understand that hierarchy at the moment. So we can very easily create this hierarchy on Power BI using something called using this category hierarchy over here. So let me delete that and show you how to create it once again. So in our data, we know that because it's our data, we know that products, there is a hierarchy for products. We start with category and then the segment and then the product. So what I can do is I can say, hey, category has some sort of order. So let's create that hierarchy for category. And what we have at the top is category. Second, we have segment. So I'm going to add that this. I'm going to add product as well. Right. Now, by adding this, what we get is that if we look at this tree visual shows us the sum of revenue or revenue by each category. So the main categories are urban, rural, mix, and youth. I am able to drill down into urban, for example, and look at what are the segments within urban category that consist of our sale. And I am able to drill down further into convenience and see what are all the products inside convenience segment that help us sale. So we are able to build this drill down and drill up features on Power BI as well, using this hierarchy, using the hierarchy feature. We can also put this onto a table or a matrix visual, for example, so that we are able to kind of emphasize and look at how the category segments, how this hierarchy can be maintained on Power BI. And another interesting thing we can add is I can add yeah. So with that, one of the next things that I quickly want to add is if you noticed on our main dashboard, we had a time scale, right? And so on the time scale, we had something called growth. We had the growth from previous period to this period. So that's something that we can do as well using option of Power BI called measures. Again, part of data modeling. So what I'm going to do right now so that we can create the measures is we need to initially have something called a calendar table on Power BI. This calendar table is uh, one of the fundamentals of Power BI and data modeling. So pretty much every dashboard that you create will have a time series component and we'll have this calendar table. So it's one of the first steps that we do before we really dive down into creating visuals. So let me create a calendar table as well. So you noticed how I created the column before using this new column button. Similarly, we have a new table button where we can use, I can say, hey, give me a calendar. Power BI has a formula for the calendar, and I can say let's start from date 2014, January 1st to 2021, December 31st. This is it. This is the formula. I'm just going to tell Power BI here, give me a calendar from this date to this date. And it's going to create one for me. I'm going to tell Power BI that this is a date table specifically. And we are going to connect that newly created date table with our sales table. And what this helps me to do is something like this. Let me pull in um, a line chart where I'm going to visualize my sale over each date. Yeah. Um, this is something that we can do. So again, there's like so much of data for us to visualize. Let's just make it a bar chart, and something I would want to add is instead of the dates, because it's so clustered, let's add a couple of other columns for years and months and quarters. So I can simply do it by saying, hey, give me a new column for year. quarter. And the month. And instead of date, let me put the year, and I'm able to essentially visualize what the revenue was for our company over the years. I'm able to click on this, for example, and visualize, or rather click on Japan or country and visualize how the sale has been over the years, right? So this is a bit of initial data exploration, and once we are happy with the metrics and models that we have, we can move on into like really building out the dashboard that we want. So in terms of the dashboard, just to make things simple, if you remember what we had before, we had a type of a background before. So the background is something that we can easily add on to Power BI just to make things interesting. Let me add a canvas background. So on a blank sheet, I'm going to go over here and add my background. So let's browse and create this background. Need to be very careful about the transparency. And so this really gives a look into your dashboard rather than having it on a just a white canvas like this. So this could help users like understand what we are really seeing. And what I'm going to add here is I'm going to
And also, it could allow organization to bring in a bit of branding if they really like
absolutely,
you, and a bit of gamification, if that makes sense. So yeah, that's lovely.
yeah, absolutely, Emil, absolutely. Let me just pull this dashboard, pull this visual over here. Um, I'm also going to, as you mentioned, Emil, about the branding, I'm going to bring in our logo as well. So let
Right.
me insert an image and bring our company logo. Yeah. Let me put a bit of a text here so to say what this dashboard is about. Increase the font size. Make that. So I need to make the background of this transparent, but I can't remember where I can find that functionality. So how are we going to do that? I'm able to click on this and search for, let's say, background. There we go, background. Let me switch it off. So this formula box over here um, enables us to search any of the formulas that we might have. Let's search for title, right? And it'll show me all of the options on title that I might have. So yeah, would help in scenarios like this when you're really not sure where you can find it. You go, increase the font size. And the thing that I'm going to bring is to just show how we can create slicers or filters or slicers. Generally in Power BI, any uh, any drop down or filtration that you do on the report, we call those slicers. So let me quickly show you how we can add a slicer as well. Uh, let me bring in our slicer visual. Let me bring in our manufacturer, and we are able to see this. We are able to filter by the manufacturer, right? But just to make things a little bit interesting, We are going to make this slicer tiles. And instead of the manufacturer, I'm going to bring in their logos. And one
Just a
more
quick
thing that I need to do. Yeah.
quick time check. Shan, we got 10 more minutes to go, leaving some time for Q&A. I think
Yes.
you're tracking well, so let's try to wrap up. With,
Yes. Yes.
Mhm.
Let's let me do one last thing on the bookmarks, just about creating bookmarks. So I'll leave the slides a bit for a moment. So going back to the initial dashboard that we had, so if I start from over here, now the previous steps that I displayed where we can go through the different countries and identify, or we identified some interesting story where things might have gone right or wrong. Well, in this case, it went right, right? What we can do is we can save those views for later. For example, if you were doing your analysis on your own and you found something and you wanted to save that view so that you can show it during a meeting to your team members, Power BI has the capability of saving bookmarks. So the initial view that I displayed, uh, I've already saved it before as a bookmark, which I can use to display at this point in time. And I'll show you how you can create your own bookmarks as well. So if I go back to one of the bookmarks that I created, so this bookmark really shows that during this period of August to September, so even I showed you all that in 2021 there was an increase. There was something interesting which happened. But when we dive deeper into the numbers of each day, we see that during the period of September end to October start, there was a massive growth in sales for this particular product under Extreme, which caused this huge growth spurt that we saw. Right. So this is something that I found in my analysis, and just the way that I'm presenting it to you by clicking on this bookmark, you can create your own bookmarks for interesting analysis that you find on Power BI as well. And I'll quickly show you how we can do that, because I believe that's one of the most interesting things over here, where you can conduct your analysis and show it to other people, share it with other people. So let me filter by North America, and let me actually preset all my views and filter for this particular. I'm just selecting something for the moment, right? So I selected a bunch of slices, and I'm able to click on this and save this as a bookmark. And now I'm able to switch between these two, so that this can be shared in terms of interesting analysis that you found during meetings, and to really dive into the details. With that, Emil.
Oh, perfect. Good
Yeah.
timing, Shan. Thank you for that. Thanks for that insightful presentation and discussion. We presented the end product when we started the discussion in the demo from Shan's section, but he also walked us through how to achieve that end goal or the end product and how a citizen developer could end up having delivering something effective as this session that covered. I hope that's useful for you learning. We have now reached that part of the webinar where the floor is now open for Q&A. I hope the team have been monitoring if there have been any Q&A. And I would like to invite Anton, our Microsoft principal consultant, to moderate if there is any questions that for the remaining time that we could address and clarify from Cheyenne.
Thanks, Emil. Also for the participants, if you have any questions, you can raise it. We got one question which came through a different channel. This is directed to Shine.
Yeah.
So when you take a citizen developer, right, they have to bring data from multiple sources, right? And what are the common pitfalls or problems generally a citizen developer will face?
Yeah, one of the main problems that I see citizen developers or developers in general facing is that when you have data coming from different sources, we really need to understand the granularity and understand the data. Like how are we going to connect these different sources together? For example, in the demo that we just did, the zip and country code, for example, right? In your own ERP or in your own data set, just a zip code would have been unique. But when we are going to connect or bring in data from other countries also, we need to understand, okay, the zip code is unique in my data, but not really unique across the entire set of data that I'm trying to combine. So like really understanding your data and understanding how these data play together, that's the most interesting thing, and that's where we need to spend a lot of time and effort as well. So yeah.
Sure. Any other questions, Anton, that I know that we are running out of time. So if there is any other questions that we could take on and get that benefit to the attendees
Yeah,
today.
there are two questions. Let me read out. When should I create new column versus creating a new measure? Is there a general rule?
Yes, yes. So a measure is something that you have to create when you want a calculation to be done on the fly. When you want a calculation to be done at the visual level is when you need to create a measure versus a column. Like for example, if I want to calculate the percentage of something, let's say the percentage of, in our case, the percentage of, let's say, extreme category uh, uh, over total sales, right? So the percentage is a number that will change depending on the slicer that we have selected. So if we look at um, the entire global sales, the percentage of extreme segment as a percentage of the entire global sales is one thing. If we look at the percentage of extreme inside a country versus that particular country's sales, it's something else. So this percentage growth, those type of things are uh, uh, items or calculations which change depending on the slicer that you have. In that case, you have to create a measure. A column is only created when that value does not change depending on the slicer or depending on the filtration that you have. For example, in our case, we created a column called USA for the US sales data. No matter what you are selecting in terms of a slicer or a filtration, that row is always USA. So in those cases, you should create a column, but when you have to perform a calculation or you expect this number to change depending on the calculation that you have, then you need to move to creating a measure. I hope that
Thank,
was clear.
thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
so I think the same person has asked a follow-up question. When do I add a new column versus creating a new measure? I think probably you explained that as well in your
Yeah.
answer.
Yeah.
Well, there is another question, not directly related to the demo, but
Mhm.
any good reference sites for learning DAX code?
Okay, so there are a couple of Power BI gurus or Power BI experts that I follow. Specifically for DAX, I can't remember specifically for DAX, but generally there is this channel called Power Guy in a Cube. Two Microsoft MVPs carry out that YouTube channel. They are really good in the content that they have. Then there is another MVP called Vin Hopkins. He has an excellent site. Matt Allington, he has an excellent site. So if you search for uh, Power BI DAX, there'll be about 3 to 4 Microsoft MVPs who have blogs and YouTube channels which pop up on Google search. Those guys are really good. So that's what
Thank
I
you.
would recommend.
Thank you for that, Anton. I think that's about the time that we have, but the conversations can continue, and we are here to help. And I've placed our contact details out there. So I know this session, we try to compress as much as possible to make your time valuable and worthwhile spending with us. But the conversations can continue, and we are here to help. And we got access to experts like Cheyenne, Anton, and rest of our Microsoft team is standing by to help and enable and empower your organization to deliver outcome. So continue the conversations, and we are happy to have a follow-up discussion. And my team, Shafraz, would be in contact with you all shortly after this discussion. Any further questions, anything that we could assist, happy to be of help. And I like to take this moment to thank Shan for your time and the expertise that you shared. And I'm sure it was valuable for all the participants. And more importantly, all of you all attended. We had a good number of participants for within a short time that we were able to get. And we hope you found this webinar valuable and inspiring. Be sure to look out for a follow-up email with the recording and also obligation-free conversation with our team if you'd like to have a follow-on conversation. On behalf of NewGen Consulting Australasia, thank you and see you on the next webinar.